Hello and welcome back to the Poultry Network podcast. I'm Tom Willings.
And I am Tom Woolman.
We're getting better at these intros, Tom.
We are.
We need to find a new rhythm, I think, perhaps to introduce.
Yeah. Well, at some point, I'm going to introduce myself as you, and you can introduce yourself as me, and we'll see if anyone picks up on it.
Indeed, you're in a different location, as am I, for the week. We've both got to change a scene. Well, I'll give you my excuse first. You can tell me yours. So, I woke up this morning with absolutely no internet, so I've dashed down to my local friendly tyre retailer. For anyone who knows my working life will know that Barmer tyres and batteries takes up an inordinate amount of my time, and I'm in their office today. So anything could happen. Where are you?
We've had a bit of a mix, switch around with rooms. As people know, I've got a lot of children, and the children are growing. So we've had a switch around with rooms to stop some of the infighting. And I'm in this room, although I've got a window behind me, and I remember I used to do calls in this room. And people used to say that I looked like someone that worked for the SAS because my face was all blacked out. But hopefully, everyone can see me all right.
Yeah, I thought that was a reference to the moustache being slightly military.
Well, I do look like someone that could storm an embassy in the 1980s potentially.
Yeah, quite right.
That's my niche. That's my niche.
There we go. How's your week been? Where have you been? What have you been up to?
It's been good actually. I've done again my normal amount of crisscrossing around the country. It's been to some farms.
2,000 miles.
Well, I did, yes. I did a new record last week, 475 miles in a day, which was quite a bit. So don't want to be doing too many of those. How about you?
I've been to Holland this week. So it's the Dutch, or it was the Dutch Pork and Poultry Expo, which was fascinating, I have to say. Quite a small event.
See anything good? Anything new?
Yeah, a couple of things. So, firstly, I'll tell you a little story. You know me; I like a little story. These things start at 2:00 in the afternoon because it's designed for farmers. This is a genius idea. I think in this country we need to consider this in our own exhibitions and conferences and what have you. We always complain that the farmers themselves don't attend, and the Dutch solution to that is to start later in the day and run on till 10:00 at night, which I'm not sure I'm signing up for. But anyway, I was walking into the hall in Den Bosch in the Netherlands, and thinking, God, the Dutch pig and poultry trade looks very different to the UK pig and poultry trade, as I was walking past a 100-metre long queue of probably 20 to 30-year-old ladies, all chatting away, very excited about going to the show. And then I realised that the next door hall was hosting the My Jewellery event, and that I was about to join the wrong queue. So I kept walking with my classic chinos, gilet, brown brogues.
I bet they could work out which conference you were going to just by looking at you.
There was an awful lot of earrings on show. It wasn't the place for me. But anyway, no, it was good. It was good. Takeaways, lots of robotics, lots and lots of tech, lots of AI. The biggest chicken and turkey harvester I've ever seen. It was like a 30-foot header on the thing. Anyone who's got stanchions, posts in the shed, they weren't going to last 5 minutes. This thing's absolutely enormous. It must, terrify the birds as it comes into the shed. But that was pretty impressive, and the videos around that, in work also pretty impressive. There's a little awards ceremony, and a Dutch feed manufacturer, AgriFirm, won the first prize for their innovation of a feed product branded Crunch, and it was like a hybrid between a mash and a crumb, so pelletized, then broken.
So there were still crumb. Various whole bits in it, but
no, maybe not really. It had been smashed within an inch of its life, so kind of homogenized by way of size. I think the sales pitch was
that sounds like dust to me.
Yeah, it was quite dusty, but then it was being compacted so that there were then flakes. But I
Okay.
don't think it had been heated in the way that a pellet would be manufactured. So,
Yeah.
I was with a nutritionist from Hendrix, and she was sort of educating me as to, what's actually happening to the nutrients. But in a pellet manufacturing process, the heat starts to then break down some of the starches. And then it's either, it's not got the same energy content, or it changes the rate at which it's absorbed by the animal, bird or swine, etc. And it doesn't behave in the same way. And this product, Crunch, go and look it up. AgriFirm is the English spelling of it. I won't try and use my Dutch pronunciation again. I think I might have done that on a previous episode and people stopped listening. It has a hybrid against the selective feeding, getting a load of feed into the animal. One of the benefits of feeding a crumb or a pellet, homogenized feed, but improving some of the whether it's absorption, digestibility, speed at which it's taken up. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think with a lot of different feed forms, it's quite interesting looking at how does the bird respond to it and actually consume it, and then also what's the impact on gut health as well, with different particle sizes. Yeah, I've been interested over the last 12 months in the broiler sector. I've seen quite a resurgence in terms of people feeding mini-pellet at placement instead of crumb. A very small pellet, small diameter, but
like a little prill kind of thing.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Quite a few feed manufacturers doing that. Not necessarily not a particularly easy diet to make, but also you don't get the sort of wastage that you might do with a bit of crumb, particularly if you're putting it down on paper for chicks and they're eating it and breaking up the paper. So. But interestingly, people that are using it have been saying about the mini pellet, oh, we were using this 30 years ago and we stopped using it. And it's interesting how some of these things are quite cyclical in nature.
Come back round, yeah. These guys were really promoting, the potential for low carbon diets because it allowed the introduction of byproducts. I guess food waste that's then being repurposed into animal food waste. So horses for courses, synonymous with a chocolate bar that they were giving away. I must have eaten like 15 Crunch bars. I didn't know it existed beforehand, but every time you sort of walk by, that someone thrusts another chocolate bar into your hand or your pocket.
Well, I bet you felt that the next day, Tom.
I did.
You're quite careful about what you eat.
Didn't do much for my gut health, I tell you. Anyway, there we are.
So, I think we were going to chat a little bit, weren't we, about some other things that have been in the news recently. There's a few sort of legal things kicking around, which is always a worrying place to start as a podcast, because whenever you're starting to talk about any sort of legal proceedings, I then start feeling like I ought to have some sort of lawyer in the room.
We've got a big disclaimer. Can we put our disclaimer on the screen right now so we cover ourselves? Yeah.
Toms are not lawyers, and we apologise if any of the terminology that we use is incorrect. So, but I suppose.
Are you talking about the River Wye by any chance? Is this to do with?
I am. Yes, which has been. I think people had a bit of notice, didn't they, that that solicitors Leigh were looking at bringing this action earlier on in the year, and I think we're trying, or it might have even been last year, we're trying to see how many people were interested, or see how many people were going to come forward with a claim. In the end, they say they've got 4,000. I've looked it up. It's not actually exactly 4,000. It's 3,943. But I don't know how important that is. If you say you've got 4,000, you don't actually have that many. It might not be that important. I'm sure that's what they were pushing for. And I guess they are taking an action against a number of parties. One is Avara Foods. Another one is Freeman's of Newent, which is actually part of Avara Foods.
Subsidiary,
but also water company. Yeah. I was trying to think of the exact water company then, and I thought, you know what, I'm not sure. So let's say it's the relevant water company for the area. With a whole range of different areas. Some of it is linked to pollution levels in the river and runoff. Interestingly, I saw one of the areas that they were pushing on was trespass. They were suggesting that that sewage or manure that was on the riverbed was trespassing on the riverbed. We're quite interested to see how that argument would unfold.
I saw this. Obviously, saw the same thing. It's an enormous story. It's been going on for an awfully long time. It has the potential to have ramifications in many ways, both in the area and far beyond, in all sectors really. But the thing that struck me about the publicity that I saw in the last few days was the link between the poultry production, whoever it is that's directing operations there, and then the application of the manure on land, and the what appeared to me, at least, again trying to be careful about what I say, but it appeared inferred that there was direction or control within the poultry side of that production process, onto the arable land, and undoubtedly, there are some poultry producers that are also growing crops or pasture that are using either their manure or somebody else's manure on their land. But in the vast majority of cases, it'd be complete dislocation between production of muck and application of muck. And I thought, well, I'm going to be really interested to see how that argument plays out, because it's one thing to debate whether or not the poultry value chain does or does not shape what goes on the poultry farm.
Yeah.
But it's quite another to leap to the subsequent application of the byproduct onto land. But that was just one. I guess that's one of. There's been a couple of other things in milling around the airways. You see this red tractor advert that hasn't been aired for a couple of years now, but to do with the care taken around the production sponsored by or backed by, assured by Red Tractor. Apparently implying that duty of care extends to the environment. Not that the word environment appears in the advert, and that being deemed by the authorities to be not fit for airing and pulled. See that?
Which is quite fascinating, really, because actually the advert itself didn't mention the environment at all. It was talking about Red Tractor farmers farming with care, and as you say, it was more sort of implied that farming with care extends to the environment. But as people will know, actually, Red Tractor in fairly recent times has Red Tractor tried to launch an environmental scheme, didn't it?
Green Tractor, wasn't
it? Not too long ago, and the industry effectively threw it out, and said that, look, Red Tractor does an excellent job focusing on some key areas: traceability, animal welfare, and and some other things around how farms are run. We don't necessarily want it to cover everything. So almost the industry had spoken, and Red Tractor had spoken and said, okay, no, this scheme isn't going to cover the environment. So it's quite amazing, really, how the argument was won. Yes, interesting times for Red Tractor, isn't it? Because I think as a scheme that covers all sorts of different agricultural products, from potatoes to chickens to beef. It's interesting to see how there are different tensions in different sectors, and also I think people think that there are things that crop up as more important in other sectors. I think when it comes to poultry, people certainly zoom in on traceability and obviously on welfare. That's a big part of being a poultry farmer. If you're a potato farmer, potato welfare isn't really on the list.
Give it time. I'm sure. I'm sure it's coming. But you talk about poultry welfare. You see Compassion in World Farming drumming up support for a parliamentary reception to back their Stop the Cage Age campaign.
Yes. Yeah.
You going?
I'm not. I quite enjoy going to London and doing a bit of hobnobbing.
Getting your phone nicked.
well,
Yeah, that sort of thing.
well, I do. I have. Yeah, I say that. I last time I went to London about a year ago, I did leave my phone in a taxi, and it was recovered by the British Poultry Council. So, a big shout out to Kerry Maxwell at the
More
British Poultry
effective than the
Council
Met,
who got
aren't
me
they?
my phone back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it's interesting, isn't it, as we get up towards 2026, that there is really still a lot of pressure, and a pressure on politicians, to put legislation in place that's going to that's going to outlaw cages.
Yeah, I think all of these things touch on something that actually is relevant to my working week next week. You've got the Try Some Chicken open event in Birmingham coming up, and really looking forward to following that. If you remember, we interviewed them on a previous episode. So if you haven't, anybody listened to this and you haven't heard that episode, then look on the website and go back, because that's a really fascinating project that looks to how we balance the social and economic needs with welfare and environmental needs, and how does that tension play out? And I think perhaps all of these things that we've just talked about are part and parcel of that very same conversation. And someone said something to me in the last week that gives a distinction between what we say and what we do. Categorizes, because we talk about the consumer. What does the consumer want? And this is my personal perspective, that the consumer's choice, is slow to change. We buy what we buy, and we're really focused on value and on cost, and conscious of everything becoming ever more expensive. And times are very, very tough, and budgets tight for many, many people. I don't see that, frankly, ever changing. And yet, from another perspective, and this is the distinction, a consumer makes those value-orientated, cost-orientated choices, but a citizen makes different choices, makes different noises, puts their hand up and says, no, I don't agree with this, we need to change that. And the same person is a citizen and a consumer, but with a totally different perspective or behavior or expectation, and you're like, well, how do we find a middle ground? Because of course that's not a tenable position. You cannot say one thing and then live another choice. We need some consistency here if we've got any hope of actually making sensible, reasoned choices about what we do and where we do it ultimately. And I think this is the Try Some Chicken, the bit about the Try Some Chicken work that I'm interested to see develop is, where do we think we're going to get our food from, and how do you think it's going to be produced? What are we all voting for? Because you tell us clearly what you want, we can do it, but it comes with the quid pro quo of balance, in cost and Sorry, I'm on a soapbox there. I'm going to shut up. But.
No, that's all right. That's all right. You're entitled to get onto your soapbox from time to time. It's been great chatting to you this afternoon, Tom, and I do hope that your internet improves for the weekend, so that you can. So
my streaming services can be uninterrupted.
I was going to suggest that you might be watching Netflix, but you'll probably actually be out on your bike, won't you? Making the most of the daylight hours.
Yeah, indeed. or just painting like Billy-O. Yeah,
which you also need daylight for, don't you know?
Yeah,
don't.
True.
It's very dangerous painting a room with just using artificial light.
Yeah,
but don't work too hard.
Thank you. Well, enjoy your weekend. Everybody else, thank you for listening. And we look forward to welcoming you back soon, whether it's just Tom and I or with a guest next time. But do
until next time.
In. Thank you.
Bye-bye.